Hello, and welcome to our migration panel today at ParDreamin. My name is Christina Magoulis. I'm joining you from the Sercante team today, and I will be your host for today's panel. Pardot is one of the fastest growing products in the marketing automation ecosystem. Organizations across the globe and from every industry are using Pardot marketing automation to increase marketing ROI and campaign effectiveness. If you're here today, you are probably considering a switch to Pardot from another marketing automation platform. Today, I have with me three panelists that have made the switch to Pardot. Terry Haynes and Zakk are both Pardot end users, having made the switch to Pardot from different marketing automation platforms. And Kelly Ryan, my colleague here at Sercante, has done migrations both as an end user in her previous client-side life and now as a consultant at Sercante. During today's panel, we'll be talking a bit about marketing automation migration projects, considerations, and even some pitfalls, so that when the time comes to do your own migration to Pardot, you are ready. We have a poll that we're going to launch because we want to hear from you. What platform are you migrating from if you are in fact considering a migration to Pardot? I'd love to start by giving our panelists the chance to tell us a bit about themselves and their own migration journey. So I'm going to kick things over to Zakk to begin our introductions. Zakk, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your recent Pardot migration?
Yes, thank you. My name is Zakk Cica, originally from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Early adopter of Eloqua'S, became a subject matter expert, and am now in Silicon Valley. Always worked for industry leaders, knew Eloqua'S extremely well in the other systems. We are now migrated over into Pardot, and here to answer any kind of questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Terry, how about you? You want to tell us a little bit about your migration?
Yeah, thanks so much, Christina. My name is Terry Haynes. I am the CRM manager at CSIS. It's a Washington, D.C. based think tank, primarily kind of national security, foreign policy think tank. But we switched from MailChimp to Pardot we finished our migration in June. It was about a 6-month migration, and we were using y'all, Sercante, as a migration partner, which was extremely helpful. Very critical to our success in that. So thanks again.
Kelly, do you want to talk a little bit about all of your migration experience, both client side and as a consultant?
I would love to. So I'm Kelly Ryan. I'm a CRM and marketing automation consultant here at Sercante. I'm new to the consulting world. So in previous lives, I've migrated from Hubspot, Marketo, and Eloqua'S all to Pardot and into each other. And then now in a consulting life, I'm talking more Marketo to Hubspot to Pardot migration. So we're moving people over in a much more streamlined way.
So we clearly have a lot of experience with a lot of different platforms today, which is great. I'm looking at our poll right now, and it seems like it's all over the place. We have people who are considering a shift from Eloqua'S, Hubspot, Marketo, and then also just some basic email sending services. So I'm sure we have a lot of info we can share today. Zakk, obviously there's a lot of choices out there when it comes to marketing automation. So what were the key driving factors for your team to select Pardot?
Sure. As a market leader, as a huge enterprise company, it only really came down to Marketo or Pardot. We were already on Eloqua'S. For the size of our organization and really what we do, HubSpot and all the other ones, they're just so came down to that. I have experience when I worked at Oracle. Oracle's averaged about 4 acquisitions per month. So quite often I would be brought in as the digital marketing expert, look to see how they structured their digital marketing and really just cherry pick the best practices that different teams had. Typically, because Eloqua'S was so robust, yet very complicated, it could do everything, right? But that was our challenge at ICE Mortgage Technology, is I was working too hard to maintain it all the time, to make sure it was kept up to speed. And I wanted to have that reliance in-house. So we looked, and also Eloqua'S was doing an Apex update, and we were looking at pricing and all that kind of stuff. When we looked into things, I have a strong opinion that if Salesforce is your CRM, that Pardot must be your map. It doesn't make sense to have all these kind of different systems for 2 systems that are so important to an organization. I'll just kind of pause here because I can keep going, but
I think that that's great. I mean, it's a really good takeaway. I've definitely heard people say that before. And we get some claps here too as well for that. Terry, I'm wondering too if you can elaborate a little bit, because obviously Zakk moved from, a pretty robust platform to another pretty robust platform, but your experience was a little different because you moved from MailChimp to Pardot. So I was wondering what made you consider sort of leveling up from basically an email sending service to something like Pardot?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Christina. I would say, primarily, and Zakk kind of touched on this as well, effectively, MailChimp just didn't quite meet our needs as an enterprise. I think MailChimp is much more suited to kind of that mom and pop e-commerce business, or, a much smaller, less experienced user base. Managing 150 users in MailChimp was daunting, especially given that, in MailChimp, if you can send an email, if you can press the send button, you can create a new template. You can create a new audience. We had an issue where a user one time created, just imported an Excel list as a new audience in MailChimp. And all of a sudden, like, our billing went up that month. And it was like, oh, what's going on here? So, there were definitely some administrative challenges with MailChimp. Because of that too, when we transitioned, we had over 1,000 templates in MailChimp, when now in Pardot we've got about 70. So, there were definitely some issues, I think, with the platform itself. That granular user permissioning, definitely one of them. Kind of this heavily e-commerce based platform didn't really work for us as a nonprofit. We're not selling anything. And then also just kind of it almost encouraged you at times to, kind of, oh, do you want to save this as a new template? And no, you don't. This one-off invitation does not need to be a new template. So, lots of challenges. And then, obviously, like Zakk said as well, if you've got Salesforce, Pardot's the easy answer. They're so intricately tied, and the solutions for integrating other platforms generally just don't fit the bill and just aren't going to work as well as that native Salesforce to Pardot integration.
A couple of quick points here is these systems are very expensive, right? They're from the tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. We actually found Pardot to give us a very competitive and the best pricing because of the consolidated costs with Salesforce. Marketo was the most expensive. A long time ago, it was the cheapest. And really, I must say, though, Eloqua is far more complex, but we've stripped away a lot of those complexities and understood that all those features and stuff that everyone wants to know what the email open rate is, but they do nothing with it. So and not that Pardot doesn't have it, but we've just simplified things. I mean, Eloqua is great if you are a multinational conglomerate and you need to have the everything kind of in there, that's great. Pardot will do it, but just in a simpler format.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a great call out. And, we're talking a lot about all these big platforms, and Kelly, I know that you've touched so many of them in your career trajectory. So I'm wondering, what advice do you have for people or companies that are sort of looking at marketing automation platforms right now, just sort of doing like a basic evaluation or analysis of the platforms?
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty similar what Terry and Zakk said. I just like to say keep your goal in mind and keep your technology integrations in mind. So if you are trying to simplify your processes, maybe it's more of marketing user base versus sales. Do you need to talk to Salesforce? Like, these are going to immediately weed out a lot of these platforms. Especially when it comes to the integration piece, because last thing we want to do as marketing ops or reporters or campaign managers is manually input everything in an Excel sheet over and over again to report on it. So just keep your goals in mind and keep what other technologies you're using that needs to be integrated in mind.
Definitely spent too much time in spreadsheets myself, so I hear that. Now I kind of want to shift a little bit and talk about the nitty-gritty of actually doing a migration, because I'm sure people here are looking for advice about the actual migration process. So, as people who have done migrations, I'm wondering, what is the best thing you did to prepare for your migration? Zakk, would you like to kick us off with that question?
Sure. I have a unique approach to migrations of any system. That's actually one of the reasons why I got brought down to Silicon Valley for Synopsys, is to bring them from Eloqua E9 to E10, to always kind of keep the marketing systems up to date. During this migration, one is we had incredible project planning, a lot of communication, clear understanding of what the goal was in mind, clear dates. I know that a lot of times when partners are working with clients that are migrating, there's a lot of belly aching. There's a lot of, oh, we don't have that anymore, and it just kind of slows down the project. My goal as project lead was to keep moving things forward. Yes, it won't be the same, but don't worry, Zakk, how we're going to do this? Don't worry, we'll figure it out. And the reason for that is I also had buy-in from my stakeholders and my superiors, where, Zakk, we know it's not going to be perfect, but get us to the point where we can start working in it and that it's functional. And with that support, that really made things a lot easier. The thing that made things the most easiest is we used Eloqua and Pardot for 3 months at the same time, and we did things very gradually. Then we also used they were called BDO Demand Gen BDO, and we used Sercante. We used two partners, so we made sure that we trained. And it's 11 months later, we still have weekly calls to make sure that we to kind of come up with these questions. To kind of think that your marketing automation platform system is going to rain gold is false. To think that one system can fit into every organization is crazy. It takes time. You need to understand how the different kind of mindset and architecture of each system is. And to understand that you won't know everything, and neither will your partners, because of how your business is set up. But they do go in, they ask for help, and they kind of help propel the project.
I mean, I've been working in Pardot for 3 or 4 years now. I still feel like I'm learning things. Like, you never stop learning when you're using a platform like Pardot. There's always something new to learn, especially with new releases. So I definitely hear that. Terry, how about you? Is there anything, specific that you want to call out that really helped prepare for your migration?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think kind of similar to what Zakk was saying, certainly for us, high-level stakeholder buy-in helped tremendously. We had our whole executive suite on board with this change. They knew there was a problem with MailChimp. They knew that, like Zakk said, it's never going to be a perfect solution. It's never going to be a perfect transition, but they knew that what we were going to move to was going to be better than what we had. Another thing we did that really, I think, was pretty critical in kind of informing our migration and not only migration, but post-migration, kind of our new strategy for mailing, was we really spent basically the entire year, most of the year of 2020, kind of doing a deep dive on our mailing data and kind of doing a big data analytics project on our data to see, what lists we were using the most, what lists weren't being used, what kind of what it looked like for the average contact, how many. We did a big data analytics dive on our event mailings, because that makes up about 2/3 of our total mailings, and found out that, we had events that people were sending 6, 7 invites for, and, just trying to increase their RSVPs. But what they don't realize is you're getting more opt-outs off those emails than you are new net RSVPs for your event. So, like, you're doing damage to our list at that point. So I think, really kind of diving into our data before the switch and then cleaning the data up prior to migration was also really big. I mean, I killed about 25,000 contacts just by running a never bounce check, and we didn't have any sort of constant email, like data hygiene cleaner. But even a one-time clean, reveals a lot. And so I would definitely recommend kind of fully understanding your data and what you're trying to migrate, as well as, developing a strategy around that migration.
Yeah, I think those are really important outs. And Kelly, I'm wondering, from your perspective as somebody who's worked with clients on migrations, is there anything specific that you can call out for companies to do to prepare beyond what Terry and Zakk have said, or even just like pitfalls that you've seen that you want people to be aware of before the migration, like prevent the pitfall from happening?
It's probably pretty similar, but my biggest advice is literally plan out a phase of your migration first. Don't even touch the new technology. Don't sign in. Plan it out, especially when you're moving over from larger platforms like Marketo or HubSpot, you want to ensure there's going to be a lot of data that's being, so sorry, the kitten's losing her mind. There's going to be a lot of data that is going to be lost in translation. So maybe all your HubSpot activities on your leads and contacts, they're not going to make it over to Pardot how you expect. So ensure in your phases pre-migration that you're accounting for any data gaps, any technology gaps, or historical gaps that aren't going to make it over.
So much. So in terms of the migrations that you guys have worked on, Zakk, is there anything that you would have done differently during your migration if you could go back in time?
I mean, hindsight's always 2020, but I think we did things quite well as a whole. Really, I have to give credit to my team. I'm the marketing operations manager. I just maintain things. They're the ones who are in it every day. They're the ones who feel the pain points between list emails and template emails. Pardot's not perfect. I mean, there's a lot of things in terms of reporting. Zakk, can you help us with this, or how do we understand that? And so my team that's in, or the team I work with that's in there every day, I'm quite sure they would probably answer that differently. But my job was to end Eloqua, start Pardot, make sure that we're in there, understand what we're going to do in there. In addition, when we were kind of talking about migrating, there was a lot of not only opportunity for us to alter and improve our database, but then there was a lot of things that we had to get reviewed again by legal departments. So when you're going through your migration process, you have to think of every department. Finance, who's paying for this, what are the invoices, all that, every department in your organization has to kind of be involved in, or at least be aware of what's going on. And that was another one of our successes, of just making sure everyone was in lockstep.
Thank you. How about you, Terry? Anything that you would call out as something that you would have done differently?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like Zakk said, hindsight's really 2020. But I will say one of the biggest challenges we had was concurrently running 2 mailing systems. We ended up actually for about 6 weeks having both MailChimp and Pardot stood up and sending emails, which became challenging, right? Our subscribers that are now getting these emails from 2 different systems, we've got to make sure that if they unsubscribe from one, they're not getting it out of the other. Likewise, they're getting completely different user experiences based on now this Pardot preference center that we're standing up versus the API connected MailChimp one that was going directly to our website. We got all that worked out, but there was this period of about 6 weeks where, not only am I scrambling to get my entire user base trained and migrated, but now I'm also kind of dealing with this challenge of our subscribers kind of having this disjointed experience. We even, in our Pardot emails in the footer, I hard-coded a little note by the subscribe and manage preferences links of hey, thank you for your patience as we transition mailing systems. It's a tough thing because, it's just not something that's easy to do. So I would say my kind of takeaway there was I really wish we could have shortened that time that both systems were live to maybe 2 weeks, which really, I think, ultimately would have come down to kind of that training schedule and really ensuring that I had users trained a little quicker, maybe a little more efficient. It was a bit of a challenge getting, the term herding cats was definitely thrown around a few times. So, but yeah, I would say, really making sure you've kind of nailed down your training and transition strategy, especially as you are kind of sundowning an old system and standing up a new one. You really want to make sure that that switch is smooth and as seamless as possible. And I think we kind of stumbled there a little bit, and it could have been a little better. But overall, I'm very happy with how it went. I'm much, much happier in Pardot than I was in MailChimp. So 9 out of 10 overall, I'd say.
Well, that's great. I know the sort of transition point of keeping 2 systems alive at the same time is usually very stressful for a lot of people, I found. And I really like your idea actually of adding a little note in the email. I've never seen that done before, but I really like that idea because it kind of gives a little transparency into what's happening to your client base.
It seemed to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. We have a lot of good questions coming in through the chat, and please, people, throw questions in there. I'm going to start pulling questions from there now. One that I'm hoping we can get your feedback on What are your thoughts on the latest releases of Pardot? How do you align with these releases when you're sort of in the middle of a migration to Pardot? Kelly, do you want to kick us off with that one?
So we're happy that Pardot and Salesforce are friends and getting more attention than normal. And Pardot's just continuing to upgrade now with Pardot Lightning and a lot of new mailability features that are coming out. It's starting to be more on par to like HubSpot drag and drop emails. So what I like to consider is let's migrate your basics first. Let's just get your admin out of the way. Let's get your templates in the weeds. Let's make sure your audience is over. And then let's talk about the fancy features. Let's make sure your power users are comfortable before we add even cool stuff to just like completely overwhelm them sometimes. So we're always, as consultants and as now Pardot Salesforce users, you can subscribe to those newsletters so you're in the loop, but just know that they're always going to tell you what your dates for forced implementation of the new features are, and there's always helpful guides, but there's no reason to rush into it when you're already dealing with a full migration.
I think that's a very, very good sound advice as somebody who has been asked that question by clients before as well. We also have a question here. Somebody would love to hear top reasons to choose Pardot over HubSpot or why you didn't consider HubSpot as a choice. Zakk, did HubSpot come up for you at all when you were considering a platform to switch to?
In my opinion, it would be kind of Outlook, MailChimp. Am I back?
Oh, yeah, I think you
Okay.
popped. You froze for a second.
For me, I kind of consider it, there's just Outlook, there's MailChimp, there's HubSpot, and then there's Eloqua and Pardot. Those are enterprise ones. So if you're a large enterprise or are going to be there, you need those larger ones. The HubSpot, they're really designed for the smaller SMB market.
Okay. Kelly, do you have anything to add? I know you've worked with HubSpot in the past as well.
I would agree with Zakk. Depending on what your goals and technology integrations are and who your users are going to be, will determine that. So if you're really email automation heavy, HubSpot's a really solid platform for that. But so is Pardot. So then are you more B2C, more B2B? B2C is probably more HubSpot. B2B is probably on the Pardot side. And then if you're in Zoho or Constant Contact or Salesforce, where are the connection points for those technologies? Or you're already in HubSpot CRM and now you just want to add the marketing part. So I would agree it's kind of ranked both from small business B2C all the way to enterprise B2B.
Okay. We have a question that came in for you specifically, Zakk. How did you level up Pardot's reporting capability to be similar to Eloqua'S? Is that something that you can speak to?
Sure. I know that this is a Pardot event, but we have to be completely transparent and intellectually honest here. Pardot's reporting is horrible. I don't like it at all. I feel that Eloqua's reporting was very professional, very enterprise, and I sometimes look at Pardot as being very sophomoric. I can't get the details that I want all in one consolidated view. However, you learn to live with it. You really do. So you can do things like completion actions or tags or use Salesforce reporting for it. So though it's not how I think it should have been designed, you will live.
Just to add on to that real quick, I think someone said it earlier, about like the open rates and that data that everybody wants and does nothing with. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Zakk. Like I also was kind of a little taken aback by Pardot reporting and was just kind of like, oh, okay, so this seems not quite the way I would have done it, like similarly. But again, also agree with you that the benefits you get from the rest of the platform far outweigh that little bit of reporting lacking, where again, like most people weren't using it to begin with. So they're not missing anything they didn't already have,
Yeah. Kelly, how about you? Is there anything that you would call out specifically about reporting and options, maybe with like Salesforce reporting, to get at some of the details?
Definitely. So in past lives, I've been more of a digital marketer. So having Pardot not even be connected to our digital platforms or ad platforms, there was a huge gap in data. So this is very dear to my heart. I'm happy to say that Salesforce is finally stepping up and filling those gaps. So if you do have a Pardot instance with your Salesforce platform, there's now things like campaign influence, campaign attribution models. There's engagement history to bring all over your metrics from Pardot into Salesforce. So you truly are having that one source of truth. And then now with a couple of the releases, like our external activities that you can connect to Pardot. And then there's more API calls from Pardot that we can even connect those gaps further. We are truly making that source of truth in Salesforce now. So hopefully that's helping a lot of people out.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a lot of questions actually about IP warming. So, you choose your platform, you decide to make the switch. But Kelly, I'm thinking you specifically might have some good advice to share on this, Zakk, as well. Terry, like how you went through an IP warm-up process. Kelly, like what do you recommend for clients for IP warm-up? How long should it take? When to actually do an IP warm-up?
Definitely. So I liked what Terry was saying earlier. First, consider your data. Don't just bring over 1,000,000 contacts to boast that you have 1,000,000 contacts. Bring over only 20,000 that you know for sure are one, opted in to you and that actually want to hear from you. So you know as soon as you start your IP warming program that you're not going to get blacklisted on your brand new dedicated IP. So what I always like to tell my clients is one, consider your data first. Let's bring over the strongest first. We can always bring people later. And then two, consider your campaign calendar. Try to find a lull in your schedule as much as possible so we can have the time to develop your emails, your email preference center, and get that list ready. And then we're going to slowly ramp up to maybe your end of year event or your newsletter that's getting a refresh. So it's going to be a slow ramp, not a fast one, especially when you have your dedicated people. I've seen a lot of people rush it where they just bring over everyone on their newsletter and don't phase it out from most active to least active, even on the newsletter. And you start getting warnings from Pardot and your IP providers or evaluators, like things like SendGrid and things who are monitoring those for you. So you want to take the time to do it right because it's really hard to fix it later.
And Kelly, the audience really wants to know, does the cat also agree with all of these recommendations?
Yes. So this is my foster cat, Luna, and she's in her hyper mode. So I apologize to everybody. But yes, she's my helper. She's really good with the keyboard.
Awesome.
Couple
Glad to hear it.
quick points on that. Kelly's being quite sweet and professional about this, but I'm the one who is in marketing operations and has to look at all the block bounces and everything. To give a little context to it, so we did a IP warming to a dedicated IP and we throttled it. So it was from 10,000, 15,000, and we gradually built that up. The other thing to be aware of is it also monitors not only your throttling, but what your average monthly send is, which is really important. Okay, so it's not just ramping it up because if there's dips and valleys, it looks at that as well. We had challenges where we had people that we knew that were good in Eloqua, but when we brought them over to Pardot, they were blocked bounces. So as an marketing operations manager, your hair will turn completely gray because you're trying to figure out why did these people, what's going on here. So again, when you do a migration, don't think it's going to rain gold and, oh, wow, we did our IP warming. There are challenges. This is why, again, you need to have good peers or coworkers or a partner to work with, because these are the challenges when you do your migration plan that don't come up.
I'm glad that I can blame my gray hair on something. So we have just about a minute left. I'm just wondering, Zakk and Terry, one thing that has radically improved for your team with the implementation to Pardot. Zakk, you first.
One more time, there was just about
Oh
backwards.
yeah, one thing that's radically improved for your team with the implementation of Pardot.
We simplify things. You know what? Email marketing has changed. Open rates are not what they are anymore. I'm a firm believer on rates. If you've got a good database, if you're sending the right message to the right people without annoying them, they're not unsubscribing. Keep things simple. So that was the biggest advantage for us. We were far too complicated with trying to do everything, and then things were just constantly, you're just dancing around trying to fix things. So we've simplified things quite a bit.
Terry, how about you?
Yeah, I would say for us, transparency is really the biggest thing. I mean, in our previous system, we were dumping contacts into Salesforce campaigns, which we were then syncing over to MailChimp. And once that was in MailChimp, you had nothing but that campaign name to give you any idea of who these 40,000 people were. So, someone would bring me an email from 4 months ago and say, hey, do you know who these people are? And I have no idea. Now in Pardot, I can see, oh, it's these 6 lists. Like, these people, it's just much clearer as to who is receiving our emails and why. Whereas before, we would get an angry email from someone saying, I didn't sign up for anything close to this. And we really have no good idea of why they got that email in the first place. I can maybe go see what user created the campaign, but I can't, there's no way for me to go see what report they used to pull them on there. So I think that, at least for me, from the administrative side, has been hugely helpful. But really just all of the new, we moved from an email marketing tool to a marketing platform. And so for us, really kind of getting those basics down for our new users, particularly monthly, as I'm kind of training new staff coming in. But then also kind of getting into that more advanced stuff. I think Kelly was kind of mentioned that earlier, just get the basics down and then we'll start chewing on the deeper stuff. But yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to our panelists for telling us your stories, sharing your experience with us. And thank you to our audience for joining us for this session. We have a lot of great sessions coming up at ParDreamin in just a few minutes, including one on Beyond Unsubscribe, using managing unsubscribes in Salesforce and Pardot. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our sponsors. ParDreamin would not be possible without our sponsors. Please go and visit their sponsor booths, connect with them, learn more about the products that they offer. Thank you so much for a wonderful and engaging session, and we hope to see you all at other sessions later today.